I have been lucky enough to have ridden over 800 different roller coasters around the world at 150 different theme parks. Each year, designs are becoming more daring, unique, and beautiful, or ugly as time goes on. Nowadays, the theming, the mix of elements, negative and positive G-forces, the trains, restraints, and more have riders praising different rides and manufacturers for what they do best. Today, I'll go through my personal top coasters. It's the first time I've really ever sat down and thought about what are my top rides. It's a mix of what I feel I would want in my home park if I could select from any. This, of course, is influenced by personal memories and factors like how I prefer negative Gs, certain lap bars, views of the ride from off the ride, how good it looks, and even the operations that I've personally experienced are going to mentally impact my personal list. So it will differ from your list, and you can tell me how much you hate it as well. I feel the ones found on my list all do something different or do what they do best. So if there's two rides that are pretty similar to each other, you won't find them both on this list. Without further ado, here are my top 25 coasters as of the start of 2023, as well as some bucket list coasters that I feel could take that top spot and change this list in future years. To start things off, it's Pantheon at Busch Gardens Williamsburg in Virginia, USA. Pantheon is a coaster that starts off quite slow and meanders a lot, but once you are on that vertical spike, the rest of the coaster is extremely fun. There's a lot of airtime, there's some sideways hang time, and the best stall that I've ever personally experienced. It makes it a coaster with 3 extremely good elements. Too bad there weren't more highlights to the ride or any theming for it to all come together. The pacing could be fixed with theming and a storyline, but it's just half zigzagging around, and then the other half is really great. Every element hits perfectly on this next roller coaster. It's got an excellent top hat, a perfect air hill, quick transitions, positive G-forces, negative G-forces, and perfect Intamin Generation 1 inversions and pacing. High-speed at Mirabilandia is amazing. I'm tall, so the restraints really hurt this ride for me, and they physically hurt me after multiple rides. So much potential to be one of the best ever, but it just falls here at number 24. While the launches aren't strong and the ending of this ride is also a bit disappointing, the barrel roll directly out of the station and multiple moments of hang time through the loops and that inverted top hat are so much fun. It puts Copperhead Strike at Carowinds in South Carolina, USA at the number 23 spot. Comfy trains and restraints with these great negative Gs make this one of the most fun coasters ever. I'm always having such a hilarious time when I ride this thing. One of the best wooden roller coasters because of its unbelievable night rides, the Voyage at Holiday World in Indiana, USA. They're out of control, these night rides, and if you don't know the layout, it's the wildest experience ever. Plus, there's so much terrain use that you're at ground level on the mid-course brake run, and you still gain speed all the way back to the station. It's a pretty crazy feeling and a little bit of an illusion. It's the original Giga Coaster and still one of the best. Millennium Force at Cedar Point, Ohio in the USA. It feels extremely tall. The drop is incredible. These straight sections that it has give you a nice sense of speed, and the airtime isn't too bad either. Plus, you can't beat the setting just looking over the huge Lake Erie, and you can even see Canada from the top. Easily the best themed coaster in the world, it's Fly at Phantasialand in Germany. Fly feels like no other ride. It's like sitting in the Lamborghini of roller coasters. Everything feels and looks so expensive and beautiful. There's this little click sound that goes when you click in the leg restraints. It's really awesome. I'm just not a fan of flying roller coasters. The sensation here, though, is the best that it could be. It's the most comfortable flying experience, in my opinion, and I don't see how that could be beat. The restraints are really great for this type of coaster. While the overall layout looks perfect of this next roller coaster, there are moments that look great but perform averagely. It's Conda at Walibi, Belgium. The non-inverting Cobra roll, for instance, looks amazing, but it's probably the weakest part of the ride. It's still a very good new generation Intamin Hyper, but it could be better with the smallest tweaks to the layout. You hear it all the time, Steel Vengeance is one of the best in the world, but something about it just comes up short for me. A lot of similar elements over and over that you can find elsewhere, but still really good pacing. I think the fact that I've never queued less than 90 minutes doesn't help its ranking either. It's very good, but I just have a hard time putting it any higher than this. Although I think this next ride would be better with the non-stretch 2x2 trains that B&M has on this coaster, this is one ride that really carries its pace well and has a very fun layout. It's Shambhala at Port Aventura in Spain. The middle row is pretty cool since you float consistently for so long, especially through that first air hill. It's very long and it interacts nicely with the park, and the color scheme's really great. It's a very, very good ride. The most free-feeling restraints out there, they might pin your thighs to the seat, but the upper body movement they allow make this ride scarier than any other roller coaster train that I've been on. It's Skyrush at Hershey Park, USA. High positive G's and high negative G's throughout the layout of this really compact 200-foot roller coaster equals a one-of-a-kind ride. There's nothing else like this ride. It's so scary and intense for most people that the line is actually usually very short, which is also a very positive thing. A classic Intamin Hyper with an awesome drop. It's crazy long and it's got very strong airtime hills, and the early Intamin trains with that very open feeling. It's Expedition G-Force at Holiday Park in Germany, one of the most recognizable coasters around the world for coaster enthusiasts, and one of the most sought-after rides. There's not much wrong with this coaster. It's really fun the whole way through. I think that its high reputation hurts it a little bit. It's still the world's tallest roller coaster, Kingda Ka at Six Flags Great Adventure in New Jersey, USA. I actually thought about putting Red Force from Port Aventura in this spot because of its ultra comfortable trains, and the height and speed are still incredible feeling. Plus, the non-roll on the way down is preferable to me. It just makes the drop feel bigger. But there's something about the machine that is Kingda Ka. The hydraulic launch, the spray of mist at the end of the launch, the sound that it produces, there's nothing like this ride. It's only the airtime that is lacking for me on this next ride. It's a ride like no other, and without experiencing it, it can be a bit hard to describe. It's Cosmic Rewind, the Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster at Epcot in the USA. The cold air conditioning, the massive building, and the music make it one of the best in the world for me. Could this be the most fun coaster in the world? Yes, it really might be. Maybe a bit of randomness in the spinning or some randomness in the show scenes, and it's even higher. Combining a great drop with extremely quick transitions, a crazy fast launch, and a dueling aspect all into one coaster, Maverick at Cedar Point in Ohio in the USA. These snappy transitions are something that we'll probably never see again, and that's what makes it so unique. It's the first half for me on this next coaster. It's all about speed, and it's unlike any other B&M Giga coaster out there. It's Fury 325 at Carowinds in North and South Carolina, USA. There's cool interactions with the front of the park, and it has a really nice layout. I love the speed, the restraints, the smoothness. The second half is a bit lacking though, but that could just be because the first half is so unbelievably good and fast. It might just trick your brain into thinking it's going a bit slower than it is. But here it is, number 11. Colossus at Heidi Park in Germany. It's El Toro's little brother. It's the first prefab, which is special, and it is seriously one of the smoothest, if not the smoothest coaster that I've been on. It's got incredible free-feeling restraints and trains, a nice drop, and the first two airtime hills are just perfection. The best start to any coaster, possibly. El Toro is not in this spot because it's just gotten too rough for me over the years, I don't know, call me old or whatever, but I thought about it long and hard, and I like a prefab Intamin that I can ride 50 times straight versus one that I could probably only ride 10 times straight. El Toro, because of the few sections with those hurtful potholes, it's not the best prefab for me this year. A prefab should be insanely smooth and not one that I have to brace myself for through certain sections. It's a classic wooden out and back roller coaster with my favorite trains from PTC, and it's got buzz bar restraints. It's Phoenix at Knoebels in Pennsylvania, USA. There's an awesome amount of airtime on this coaster. It deserves a top 10 spot just for the nostalgia alone. A ride that is different every time you ride it. Ride to Happiness at Plopsaland de Pan in Belgium is absolute insanity. It's extremely intense, it has some of the strongest negative Gs out there, and the ride has some pacing issues in my opinion, with some turns and elements that are just boring and don't fit the extreme nature of the rest of the ride. There's graceful and extreme sections, along with the high G spike mock airtime hills that they're known for, and they're not really my favorite shaped hills. It also has an awesome soundtrack though, one of the best soundtracks of any ride that I've heard. It has the potential to be so much higher on this list than it is. From one of my childhood home parks, this is my favorite hypercoaster from B&M still, and it's not even over 200 feet tall. The hills have that classic B&M triangular-like shape, and it's just endless fun. It's the best part of a hypercoaster is an airtime hill, so why not just clone that element like 8 times and be done? Perfect. This is a coaster that I think is worth traveling to, the worst Six Flags park. I still try to go here once a year, and it's only to ride Goliath multiple times and then leave, and also get poutine. The pacing and high-speed elements found on both of these coasters are out of control. It's Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa and Zadra at Energylandia in Poland. They're very similar but different. There are things that I like about each of them, and it's hard to really pinpoint which is better without having ridden them back to back. It's Zadra for the airtime and the negative Gs, but it's Iron Gwazi for the better element set. I really don't know how to place them, so they share the next 2 spots. Hyperion, also at Energylandia in Poland. These massive vehicles on this ride can be felt as you go through the track. They just seem to weigh so much, and they're so impressive as you fly through this massive course. It's got a nice mix of elements with massive airtime hills, a fun inversion, and then some twists and turns at the end. It goes back to that kind of perfect situation of an out and back layout with a twister section at the end. I really enjoy this coaster, everything about it. The coaster that keeps getting better throughout the layout and finishes with my favorite inversion that I've ever been through. You fly out of your seat through the Mosasaurus roll, and that element alone makes this deserve a top 10 spot. My jaw still drops after 400 rides on this thing, after going through the Mosasaurus roll every time. Plus the theming is good, and even though I think the pacing is a bit wonky, it's got an awesome layout and balance of elements, and it's special to me following it from dirt moving to completion. I looked at it almost every day of construction. I'm probably super harsh on it, being lucky enough to live so close by, but I have to give it a top 3 just for the memories. There's not one standout moment on this next coaster. It's Wonder Woman at Six Flags Fiesta Texas in the USA. The whole thing is total chaos. There's no other ride that has me so shocked on the brake run at the end of every circuit. It's relentless, it's totally nuts, and even though it all meshes together, each part brings something a bit different to the table while never slowing down. It's a crazy layout, and it feels like a massive backyard coaster, which is a good thing. It brings out just the right amount of scary, anticipation, out of controlness. It's an unbelievable ride experience. The colors and theme are absolutely terrible. I'm just not a fan of superhero coasters. It's an easy cop-out, so that really just tells you how much I like this coaster itself. It's the theming, the intertwined pathways above and below the track, the surprising small moments of airtime, surprisingly comfortable lateral forces, the great trains and restraints, and the endless near misses that put Tehran at Phantasialand in Germany at the top spot for me. I still don't really know the layout exactly after multiple rides, plus it might just be the best place to drink a beer at any theme park that I've been to. There's moments where you don't want to put your hands up because of the small clearance level, and while there's no big drops, it really doesn't bother me. That's not what the ride is meant to do. It's got really fun pacing and an awesome soundtrack. It's number one for me. And now just a few bucket list coasters that I feel could make this list and change it in future years. First up, it's Helix at Liseberg in Sweden. This is a terrain double launch coaster. It looks to have an incredible layout with some original elements and a lot of highlights. And I should be getting on this year, so hopefully that will fall somewhere in this list. Next up, DC Rivals at Warner Brothers Movie World in Australia. DC Rivals, it's another coaster that I think could become my favorite if I were to ride it. There's a lot of airtime and it's got a long layout. Plus I love hyper coasters and I love these mock roller coaster restraints, so I feel like this is one that really could be in that top spot. Taiga at Linnanmäki in Finland. I'll also be trying to ride this one this year, and I truly believe that it could be the best. It takes elements of Terran and adds a bunch of original elements to it as well. Looks like it has an incredible stall and also a very interesting first element right out of the station's first launch. Formula Rossa, the fastest roller coaster in the world at Ferrari World. I love speed, and this is the fastest coaster, so what's not to like? It's really long, and I can't imagine the front row has to be an amazing feeling with the wind in your face and everything. It's got to be one of a kind. Ijinika at Fuji Q Highland in Japan. This is a fourth dimension coaster, so it does things that no other coaster type can do, and it's always one that people talk about. It's one that I feel could make it into my number one spot. Drops on the fourth dimension coasters are awesome, and as long as this one's a bit smoother than X2, I think it's one that could take the top spot. That's it. Let me know what coasters are also in your top 25, and if any of them were similar or the same, and which ones you totally hate that I put in here and don't deserve a spot at all. And of course, thanks as always for watching, and until next time, see ya.